Well, greetings. And remember, folks, if you're struggling or you're down and out, keep moving forward or sideways works too. And if neither of these work, do nothing. That's the best advice I can give you. And recently, on our 35th anniversary, her card stated that when you've been married as long as we have, you learn to accept the other person's faults. And I replied to her by saying, faults? What faults? I don't have any faults. And I still find some people, mostly women, who are saying, it's amazing. I still don't like the word. However, I want to display some allowance with the statement. So I'll allow one a day and I'll let it go. No more after that one. And that would be amazing. I recently watched the CBS News from New York claiming that members of one of New York's notorious crime families used check cashing business and a Newark restaurant to run a racket enterprise that reaped in millions of dollars through loan sharking and gambling activities. So my question is, yeah, so what? This is daily news in the New York and New Jersey metropolitan area and most of the Northeast. This is daily activity, and the viewing public was probably yawning when the story came out. This is news? No. And I've come to the realization that I do show some signs of dementia. And I'm not trying to mask this. However, in today's world of constant information, along with perpetual revisions and modifications of this information, I sometimes believe that the everlasting flow of data and information requires a capacity that demands patience and tolerance, which I have a little of both. And being a homeowner, if an appliance breaks down and requires an update, take for instance a refrigerator, you may have to contact them to have them assist you or be prepared to go into your pocket to repair the issue or replace it. I point out a refrigerator since it's only 2.5 years old, and the directions can be baffling as it continues to provide poor information regarding the water filters as it continues to send contradictory information again, no matter what you do or who you speak to. So we live with it. And same for the iPhones. Going to the Apple store for an upgrade that we did a couple of weeks ago required us to spend about 3 hours, and we still had questions that left us feeling unsure of the process. So I'm certain that something will eventually require us to return, and we still have 4 or 5 other issues that require our attention. There are quite a few descriptions about these times, which is natural, and the one that sticks out is the age of anxiety. I agree to a certain extent. However, my take on this interpretation is that the age of anxiety has always existed since the beginning of time. It defines our lives and everything in the universe. We all want to be happy and comfortable, and hopefully we'll find our gratifying places. But anxiety keeps lurking on just about everything we do. Anxiety is a bitch. It's a constant threat in our lives, and everyone is in this quandary and conundrum. And coming to think about it, I have to go now and take care of some business. Therefore, there goes the day or the week. And as the song goes, there's no time to live. And being 71 years old, I could always check into an old folks home and let someone else take care of all this freaking crap. And you know the question when someone says, you have a problem with that? My reply would be, not right now, but if I change my mind, I'll let you know. In the good old days of working in Amtrak, it wasn't the best job in the world, but the money was good during a recession, and your check was signed by the United States of America. So these two incidents with Bobby G, one of the funniest persons I ever met, and unfortunately he's no longer with us as he passed away about 20 years ago. So Mary and I are in Tony and Lucille's on Worcester Street, New Haven, and we're waiting for our order. And this was on a very busy Friday night, very popular restaurant. And Bobby G walks in, and I notice him, and I introduce him to Mary, and he smiles and says to her, it's very nice meeting you, Mary, and I'll pray for you every night. Only Bobby. Another incident was in New Haven while we were working on the tracks, and I was flagging since we were working on live tracks down in the cut about 50 feet below. And two women show up above and ask about Anthony, and I tell them that there's no Anthony working for our group. And lo and behold, I see Bobby slowly coming my way. And when he gets closer to me, he asks me, who were the women you were talking to? And I tell him, and he out of nowhere claims, if any women ask for someone named Anthony, it's me. You should know this. I have more women than I can handle. And were you born in a manger? As if I was supposed to know this. And then there was Charlie Tejan who asked me, and I can't make this stuff up, if I would go to India, yes, and get paid, the country of India to pick up some heroin and pot. And I was like, I think I'll pass on this. And this was the guy who, when he was feeling his oats, like Bobby G, he was about 100 pounds, and these two guys were streetwise and from the rough part of New Haven, but a lot of fun, and you never knew what was going to happen next. So one to another streetwise whack job was Greg, and I forgot his last name. We were working out in the London area of Connecticut, and we got our checks, and that's how it used to be in the 70s and 80s. So we find a bank, about seven or so of us walk into the bank to cash our checks, and note that being employed for Amtrak, you were working for the US government since they had needed tons of work on the track simply because it had been a while since the work was upgraded. And Greg is first in line to cash a check, and the clerk advises him that she has to get permission from her boss, and Greg tells her that the check is written from the US government. So she speaks with her boss, and she comes back, and they cash all of our checks. And Greg says, if the checks bounce, we're all in trouble. Yet another guy worked with us, Reno, a hotshot in New Haven who owned a club in town. And I went to see him one night as he was playing cards, and it's predominantly black. And he's glad that I showed up. And we got along very well. And he says to me, if a white guy shows up in here, it could be trouble for him. But if an Italian shows up with two or three guys, I'm in trouble. And those were the days. And I'm pretty sure that most of adults have heard of the term damned if you do, damned if you don't, which most likely, if you're familiar with it, you're married. I have a very low tolerance for it simply because it's bullying to the max. She's right and I'm wrong, and all the options are gone. Unfortunately, I have not encountered it too often. You just have to stand your ground, and I am out.